You're listening to the 411 Forecast Wrestling Podcast on the one and only 411 Podcast.
You just heard the Resonant Complex with that super cool opening. Be sure to check out their debut album, North Ave, on all your favorite streaming sites. I am Justin Watry, and last week it was Noah drinking. This week, it's me. So right now, let's kick it over to Matt. What's up?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me back. You know, this should be a really good episode. I'm kind of excited to go over it. Some of it's going to be pretty self-explanatory, but I think we'll approach this from a couple of different angles, play devil's advocate with some of these. But yeah, Mr. Matty Moses here, and I brought Noah Watry along this time, Justin's brother. Noah, what's up?
Matty Mo, what do you propose? All right, so maybe I was drinking a little last week, but my points still stand, and my list still stands. So, Justin, you can outdrink me today, and let's see whose list stands the test of time.
All right,
I like that.
I outdrink you every day. So, yes, this will be our Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. Quick little rundown. It's just basically the top 4 stars of all time. I posed this over to Twitter, and you know they got some great responses as always for me. We got Yashir says Steve Austin, Rock, Hogan, Undertaker. Obviously 4 big names there. We will get to those. And then Mr. WWE Trivia Generator, who we usually agree on everything, he says Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and John Cena. And his honorable mention, Shawn Michaels, his absolute favorite, Vince McMahon, The Rock, and Ric Flair. Holly, who just did this to mess with me, says Hogan, Rock, Cena, and Triple H. Yes, that is a sarcastic post from her.
Hogan, Rock, Cena, Triple H.
And I think we should start with one that I believe we will all agree on, so it's kind of best to just get it out of the way. So just say aye if it is agreed. Mr. Hulk Hogan.
Aye.
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 Aye, Captain.
Aye, Captain.
Now,
Pretty self-explanatory here. Hulk Hogan, you know the name, you know everything, the scandals, the controversy, the wins, the titles, everything about him from mainstream to the business. For me, the biggest thing was longevity, because actually he started in the WWF, and everyone forgets that, but he was actually for Vince McMahon Sr. before Vince McMahon Jr. actually took over, but the AWA, his Rocky appearance in the movies, everything in the 80s he did with Hulkamania and the Rock and Wrestling connection. And the best part was right when the run was ending, he went to WCW and turned bad and reinvented himself. And then what was old again was new. And then he came back again in the 2000s. Matt, what do you think, Hulk Hogan?
yeah, I mean, you can't really argue against that. I was, as you're listing off all that he's accomplished, I mean, it's hard to not have him on there. I mean, can you make a case against it? I mean, who could you have on there instead of Hulk Hogan that created such an impact? Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be really tough. Yeah, I think that's
a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree.
No?
Absolute no-brainer. If we were going in order, he would have been number 2 on my list.
Whoa.
Despite being a no-brainer, but I feel like he's just synonymous with wrestling. And it doesn't matter what age you're at. If you grew up in the 80s, you grew up in the 90s, the 2000s, our age now, like if he were to come back and, WWE wrestle, like you'd watch again.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Justin said, okay, the 80s obviously super popular with everything growing up. 90s turned heel, still super popular, maybe for the wrong reasons. But, I mean, he did everything from commercials, movies, TV shows. Anything that had Hogan on it, you watched, you bought, you paid attention to. There's just no more bigger marketable guy, I think, in wrestling history than Hulk Hogan. And it still would ring true today. I don't know how old he is. I mean, got to be, 70? I'm not even kidding. I mean, I don't know, 70?
I don't think he's that old, but probably pretty close.
Okay, but, I mean, still, like, if he came back and you're like, well, they're going to wheel him out and he's going to wrestle a match. Okay, right. I'm going to pay for it.
Exactly.
I haven't watched in years other than WrestleMania last year and Fastlane leading up to it. Thanks for that great promotion, WWE Network. But anyway, if Hogan's there, like I still would watch.
Yeah, it goes back to something I believe it was Arn Anderson who said. He just said when you think of wrestling, you think of Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
He said whether you've watched 5 seconds of it or 5 years of it, when somebody says Hulk Hogan, you know well, he's that wrestler.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, because whether you like heels, whether you like faces, it's like, how do you not all of a sudden get amped up and pumped up when he starts hulking up and, putting his ear to the crowd? Whether you hate the guy, it's like, you're like, okay, here it comes again. But every single time, no matter who he faces, what happens, it still puts a smile to your face. You still want to see that leg drop, and then the music, even the music.
Oh yeah, totally.
The music still to this day completely, like the whole Real American theme song. I mean, it's literally like the total package with Hogan. So,
and
absolutely, if he's not on someone's Mount Rushmore, I would immediately stop them and say, "You're done.
You're done."
Yeah, you're done.
I would say one of the better
he's
parts.
65 years old for the record.
Okay,
you are too far
okay.
off. He's
So I'm not that far off.
No, pretty close. I would say one of the better parts is
65 looks like he's 80. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that, Justin?
I would say the best part is some guys can
to the
only
ring uphill both ways.
yeah, without shoes in the snow. So the part about it was he could be the greatest face of all time, but as the 90s proved, he was also then the great heel. He went from red and yellow to black and white, which is unheard of, and obviously the NWO, and then that ended up beating WWF, which was kind of funny. So he created WWF, and then he went somewhere and then beat the monster that he created.
Wow.
Which I guess you're true, because when he did do that heel turn, like, it's almost like John Wayne being like, oh, he played a villain in a movie. Like, if you had said, oh, Hogan's going to turn, he's going to join WCW, he's going to turn, he's going to be heel, lead NWO, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, black and white, like, that would probably be on the top of, like, there's no way that's happening.
No, that's a good analogy,
Right.
yeah.
I think the second part that's going to lead into my next competitor is there's actually a quote that Ric Flair said. I believe it was from 2009. He was straight-faced, stone-faced, everything was clear, and he just literally looked in the camera and said he's sick and tired of saying Hulk Hogan's the biggest star of all time. It ends today. Stone Cold Steve Austin is the biggest star of all time, and he is my next man on the list. It's not close. Stone Cold, every record Hogan said. If you don't believe me, you can clearly believe Ric Flair, who was right there with Hogan during that era. And it's not even a contest to me. Every record Hogan broke, then got broken by Stone Cold, and we can talk about Attitude Era and the huge ratings and everything that Stone Cold did. But I don't know about you guys, but Matt, what do you think? Stone Cold?
Yeah, I agree. I like that one. I mean, there are some people you could pick through the Attitude Era, which I think we might start to get into after Stone Cold. But I mean, he defines a generation, not just in like the Attitude Era or not even beyond the gimmick, right? But just going against the Authority. No matter how old you were, you could root for him, and you wanted to be him. And he reinvented it or reinvigorated, what word you want to use for that. But like basically everything you listed off for Hulk Hogan is what Stone Cold like reinfused into the business through that time period. Just whether it was movies or cameo appearances on TV shows, things like that. Like just everything.
Yeah, I think Stone Cold kind of left off or took things further than when Hogan, moved on and went WCW, and they definitely did have to push the envelope and say, okay, we're New Edge, we're cutting, we're going to shock you. Hogan turned, and also Stone Cold was more in your face, and he definitely kind of took the reins and like held back then WWF together and the whole Attitude Era, and it was definitely something they needed to come through and do. Certainly D-Generation X, I feel, played a big part in that too, but
yeah,
Stone Cold, I mean, without him, do they survive? Do they make it? Do they get that fan base still, the people that just go absolutely ballistic and I'm a big guy in theme music.
Yeah.
And I feel like theme music can totally set the tone for an entrance, for a guy to come back, and all of a sudden you hear that glass shattering. Like, that's got to be up there for ultimate entrances. And, I mean, just the fan reaction, all the signs that you would see, everything that he kind of took over on the mic. Yep, Austin 316, all this when he started the What movement. Like, I remember it was annoying. It became annoying, but, like, it still goes on, I bet. Like,
right. The thing about it was it's funny that it kind of comes full circle is because Hogan created WWF and that monster in the 80s. And then 90s, he ended up beating the own monster that he created with the NWO and WCW. But then what ended up turning the tide and beating him at his own game was the Stone Cold Mike Tyson rivalry. And mentioning that Stone Cold shirt, I want to say it's either the top or top 2 best-selling wrestling shirt of all time. And there's a story that during Austin's peak year, just off T-shirt sales, nothing else, I think he made like $15 million. It was that hot.
Oh, my goodness. I will say, if I saw that at a rummage sale, I would buy that and probably wear it to this day.
Yeah, and the thing about the best part was, he was basically told to, when he won the King of the Ring, and he said Austin 3:16, he was mocking Jake the Snake, who had been quoting Bible verses in the buildup, but that was off the cuff. None of that was planned. They pretty much said, you're winning King of the Ring, 10 minutes, whatever it is. And then afterwards, you're going to be interviewed for a minute, cut your promo and tell the world that you've arrived. And on the cuff, he said, Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your, So, and then sure enough, $15 million and record ratings and everything else. Yeah. Austin 3:16.
It's number 1 still, according to this article. Yeah, number 1. And then number 2 is the Hulkamania Hulk Rules.
Yep. I was going to say Hulkamania's got to be there.
And I would quick say the Hulkamania thing, this is where everyone gets upset with the inflation and like, Star Wars box office record broken and all these things of inflation. Imagine the Hogan popularity, what you could do shop zone online. There was nothing online or internet.
Right. Imagine Twitter, imagine YouTube, Facebook.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Exactly.
There literally would not even be a comparison. It would be double, triple, I think, at least. At least.
Right. And that just goes back to my Hogan and Stone Cold, not even close as number 1 and 2.
Okay, so I just want to say also a point on Stone Cold is also, if you have not read his book is my favorite out of all the wrestlers' books that I have read.
Okay.
Now, I haven't read all of them. I think I've read maybe, again, it's probably a low number to all the fans out there, but maybe at least 10 of them.
Yeah. I would say that Stone Cold actually, I believe it was a few years ago, said that, he wasn't exactly too happy with that book and has a lot more to say. So there might
and I would love to read it again, but to me, it really like kind of hit a note. It was more on a personal level with him, and it's like, okay, you can look back and like, okay, now I understand this, I understand that part of it.
Yeah,
and respect the journey. But also, last week when we were talking about honorable mentions matches, what was hard for me was a lot of my matches weren't title matches, so I couldn't list them. But if they weren't title matches, top 5 for me would have been Rock versus Austin number 3 at WrestleMania, just because of what it meant. And that's one I still will go back and watch. And again, Austin's book, so the whole buildup of it in Austin, I mean, yeah, you just, again, like Hogan, you can't have a Mount Rushmore, I think, without Austin.
I will say that 2 quick points, and then we'll go to Matt's next pick. 2 points real quick. I did really like his book. I'm glad that it ended when he retired, but obviously, there's now 16 more years of material he could write about. And the part we mentioned with Hogan being a great heel, we mentioned this last week, Austin, as great as a heel as he was, it didn't exactly bring in the money or do what NWO did for WCW. So, Matt, your next pick?
Yeah. Oh, well, like what? Just to resonate what you were saying about Stone Cold too, like it doesn't, like the Punisher, right? If you make the Punisher a bad guy, like the appeal is that he's a vigilante, like he's the anti-hero. So how do you make the anti-hero a bad guy? You're basically you're okay. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Okay, so this one, I picked The Rock.
Okay.
I picked The Rock. I feel like you could argue a spot for John Cena. We haven't given our 4 yet, but I feel like The Rock paved the way somewhat. Not that Hogan didn't, but definitely as far as like blockbuster movies and making it maybe more appealing to crossover into entertainment. Whether it's hosting a reality show or things like that, like not just the sport of wrestling, professional wrestling, but the entertainment side of things. What do you think, Noah? Did you want to harp on this? Or
Rock is one that is not on my Mount Rushmore, but I will say he was literally the one I was debating between who I'm going to say next. It was him and someone else, and right on the cusp, especially because of the crossover with Hollywood and everything. But I just felt like he wasn't there long enough, and his peak still never topped Stone Cold's.
Bingo.
I feel like, he was awesome. I loved him. I love when Rock wrestles. But it's like you put Rock against Austin, and they were both faces for a long time in the end of their careers.
Right.
But everyone wanted Austin. Even when Austin still was turning heel and being with Vince and the whole what thing and Invasion, like, they still cheered Austin. Like, they still wanted to see the stunner. They still wanted to see Austin win. And it was like, okay, rock bottom, people's elbow. And it's like, Austin kicks up and they're going nuts over it. It's like, what? and I love The Rock. I think he's been amazing for wrestling. Like, if there was a 4B or a number 5, just maybe, on the edge, like Mount Rushmore, sure. Rock's little, eyebrow, we can get up there. I mean, I feel Rock, but I feel like Stone Cold just always slightly edged him.
Yes, that's true. He was always, the Kane to the Undertaker. And if you go back to the WrestleMania matches, until Stone Cold retired, every time they fought, Stone Cold ended up winning. And when Rock ended up getting that main event run, it was only because Stone Cold was out for a year with a broken neck. The second he came back, well, guess who was right back on top again, winning the Rumble and going to Texas to win the title? It was Stone Cold. Yeah. And I will add that The Rock is actually right under my top 4. So he is definitely right there. And on Noah's point, not that he wasn't there long enough, because he's kind of, in 2011, he had a little bit of a comeback, so he did add on more years.
Yeah, I didn't watch then, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I will add that I would almost put him on the Hollywood Mount Rushmore more than the wrestling one. Okay. And to Matt's point, he absolutely crossed over, and it was huge in all of his big movies. He's making $15 million a movie now, and obviously you can't argue his success at all. It's huge. Mm-hmm. But again, does that go back to wrestling? That's where he started and got the big break. But isn't this now, are we talking about his Hollywood success more than in the ring?
Yeah, and I feel like, and no knock on him wrestling-wise, because, again, he was awesome to watch. He headlined it, but it was always, like you said, because Austin was out. And number 2, looking back, you're like, yeah, it kind of looks like, he always had not another agenda, but it's like it wasn't synonymous with wrestling. Like, you think of The Rock now, do you think of wrestling?
No, that's a really good point.
I don't think anyone does. Unless you grew up literally watching him wrestle, I don't think you think of him as that.
Yeah, when you watch him cut a promo, you could tell he was meant for bigger things. Like,
and that's awesome for him.
WWE isn't big enough.
Great on the mic. Yeah, like if there's a top mic skills, a top mic skills, I think I would put Rock number 1, honestly.
Right. I would even add that, if we're calling him Rock, obviously that's not his name. So I would say he's still connected to wrestling, obviously. But I would say, even years back when he did return in 2011, my little sister, she didn't know he was a wrestler before. She said, "Oh, the actor." Well, okay. So, obviously skip the generation.
Really said that?
Yeah. She was how old? 9 years old, 8 years old. So, it's not entirely fair. But again, it just showed that, yes, he had kind of moved on at that point, and he still comes back once in a while, but hasn't had a match in, I want to say, 3 years, something like that. Yeah. So he's clearly moved on. But Matt, just real quick, am I correct that we are both Hogan and Stone Cold as 2 of ours?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, all of ours.
Okay.
Hogan and Stone Cold, all 3 of us.
Definitely Hogan and Stone Cold. I couldn't, I couldn't make an argument against either of those.
Okay.
Did you have The Rock, Justin?
I said he was right below my top.
And Rock would have been my very next one too. So
4B,
right?
Officially 4B.
Get the eyebrow on Mount Rushmore.
All right. So Noah, do you want to give your third one, or should I?
Oh, so The Rock's last match was in 2016 WrestleMania 32.
It was and I don't.
It was a 9-second match.
Yeah.
What?
Hold on.
Come on.
All right, I got a backstory.
Okay.
Before your backstory, I just want to say all these guys win their last matches and retirement matches. I'm like, I wish they were legitimate last matches and retirement matches. You're like, oh, Rock's match was against Stone Cold and he lost and blah, blah. And you're like, well, actually.
Retirement.
He came back and faced Funaki and gave him a rock bottom through the table. Like, okay, great.
Well, actually, that was Stone Cold's last match, and still is to this day.
Stunner!
So, no.
I will say, no one kicks the stunner like The Rock.
Yeah. He should be on the Mount Rushmore of that. No, Stone Cold's last match was 2003 against The Rock. But The Rock, like I said, came back in 2011 He came back for 3 straight Manias, which was a 3-year program with John Cena, and each year topped 1 million buy rates and set new records each time. So clearly a success, huge success, which we'll get to my third pick, Mr. John Cena, Boiler. But I will say, and then he took a 3-year break. What basically happened was I believe he tore a muscle or something in the match with Cena. He lost. He passed the torch. He raised his arm, the big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then in 2016, he came out. He was he was supposed to do something at the Texas Cowboy Stadium for Mania.
Sure.
And they kept hyping he was doing something, and it was very vague, and nobody really knew what he was doing. So he comes out, has this huge blowtorch, and does this huge big entrance with the Cowboy cheerleaders and stuff. He comes out, and he announces it's the new biggest attendance record of all time for the company. It was 101,000 or something, obviously in Cowboy Stadium. So, huge event. And all of a sudden he was just he raised the microphone, and everyone was thinking really? That's it? And then Bray Wyatt came out. The Wyatt family interrupted him. They talked trash, did the back and forth. The Rock hit all of his insults. Then all of a sudden he goes, you know what? I'm not here for a WrestleMania fight. I'm not here for WrestleMania brawl. Then he took off his shirt and had his boots and tights and everything on. He goes, I'm here for a match. And he's like, so Bray Wyatt, you send me one of your goons right now and we'll have a match. And literally the guy walked into him to a rock bottom and pinned him. The reason being was because...
Did he at least give him the people's elbow?
No. The reason being...
then it's dumb.
Hold on. The reason being was, like I said, during his Cena match, he tore a muscle, which pretty much from there the producers were like, you're done competing. They had to stall filming for 3 months and obviously cost money and... halted everything. So pretty much he's not allowed to get signed on. Notice Batista, it's going to be very interesting how his Triple H match goes in a week and a half with his filming schedule. In case he gets hurt, that's going to be bad news for him and his big money in the Marvel series.
Well, Batista, my number one.
Yeah, right. So anyways, after the match, immediately the whole Wyatt family jumped back in the ring and attacked him. And then who came out and saved him? Dun-da-da, John Cena. They came out, they did little tag team moves, and I believe he then did the people's elbow. Cena did his trademark stuff, and then they did, again, another pose. So that's basically how Rock... He's appeared since then a little bit, but that was kind of his last big appearance. And like I said, he had returned 2011 to 2013, 3 straight record-breaking Manias. But since then, his in-ring has pretty much been gone.
All right.
Okay. Do you want to steamroll that right into your third pick, John Cena? You hinted at.
Yeah, well, I said it last week. I said Hogan, Stone Cold, and Cena. I'm kind of going to leave my fourth as a little teaser here, but I had mentioned John Cena, and I don't even know if there's a lot because everything Hogan did and all the records he broke were broke by Stone Cold. And Cena, I mentioned it last week. I mean, it's a $7 billion company now, not $1 billion. You can't really argue that. And everything from longevity, Cena actually holds the record now for longest run on top consecutively. Not Hogan, certainly not Stone Cold, who actually only had 3 years on top. 98, 2009, 2000, he was out injured for a year. And then 2001, and then he walked out in 2002. So actually, Stone Cold only had 3 years. John Cena debuted in 2002. We're sitting here in 2019 talking about him. So that's 17 years in case you can't do the math. So clearly over 3 years of Stone Cold. And like I said, the business stuff, the merchandise, Cena is now outsold Hogan and Stone Cold. Again, inflation, times change. You can add in all the excuses you want, but money is money. And in terms of business, Cena has, I believe it's 5 or 6 of the top best-selling WrestleManias of all time. He was the main event in all of them. So again, it's kind of hard to say a variable and stuff. It's always been Cena. And then even if you want to go to victories, everyone talks about Ric Flair being the 16-time world champion as the record. Well, John Cena tied him in 2017. He also has 16 world title reigns.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue any of those points.
No.
What do you think?
We can't argue him. Cena's not on my Mount Rushmore.
Oh.
I didn't think he would be.
Yeah, he wrestled more so when I stopped watching. I was a huge fan, though, again. I think I touched on this a little bit last week. I was a huge fan when Cena first started, when he came out rapping, wore the throwbacks, five-knuckle shuffle, the word life, everything. I was super into it, but at one point I had everything that he came out with as far as like his gear.
Yeah.
You know, the Shop Zone and the little wrestling magazines you get every month. Like anything Cena, I literally like bought. So at first I had it all, loved him. But I feel like, again, more almost on the Hogan point. I feel like he definitely was all of a sudden became more Hollywood and more of a Hollywood wrestler. And as far as like the buy rates and stuff, I don't understand how, like, okay, so you're like, oh, WrestleMania did this record number, so they just attribute it to whoever main evented, or how do they figure that? Like,
well, I mean,
because of Cena, or
well, the top guys bring the business. You're not going to say Joe Blow in the opening match is the reason why 1 million people bought a pay-per-view.
Well,
for instance, actually not. So
not
quick
to steal a Justin line here, but back in the day, like I feel like when we all watched as a family, yeah, we were interested in, you know, Triple H and Stone Cold and The Rock, but I think we all liked a lot of the undercards. We liked, you know, those intercontinental matches. We loved the tag team matches. Like I would have bought pay-per-views just because of TLC and Hardy Boys and cage matches and.
Well, right, yeah, absolutely, but I mean, those are the top tag teams, which I believe we already ranked, or we're going to. But the thing with that, I mean, again, it goes back to the ratings and all that. I mean, who sold more shirts, you know, Taz or The Rock? So who's going to get the credit for, you know, merchandise sales? Probably The Rock. Hey, I did have a Taz shirt.
That Taz mission, I tell you.
So, you know, who's going to get credit for putting everyone in seats? You know, Cena or, again, Mr. Joe Blow in the dark match before the show. So you don't have to necessarily attribute it to him, fine. But again, who are you going to attribute it to?
Yeah, I get why playing the numbers, but I feel like it's still kind of anyone can play numbers the way they want. But no, I get it. Cena was the top guy. He was awesome.
Right.
People loved him, but then again, people hated him too.
Yeah, and that goes back to the Roman Reigns issue right now. I think the thing with another comparison, I mean, who brings people into the Patriots Stadium? Is it Tom Brady or is it an offensive lineman? Nobody knows. So let's be real here. So the thing with also is, you know, Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, you know, record numbers on boxing. Well, tell me another fight on the card. You can't do it. It's obviously the main eventers that bring in the money.
Yeah.
So again, to say, well, maybe it's not Cena that does it or not the main events or whatever. I mean, I get it. I love tag teams too. So it's clearly, it starts from the top down.
I get it totally. Obviously, because if you're getting it, of course you're going to watch the main event. There's a reason why it's the main event. You know, it's the last match. You're paying for it. You're going to stay up for it. They're going to make it worth your while 100% every time. But to me, I just feel like Cena, again, and it's not, maybe it's me because I didn't necessarily watch during his whole title reign, so I honestly don't even remember them. But I just wonder, and this has nothing to do with Cena, but like, is there a reason why they tied? Are they just not wanting anyone to break Flair's record? Is it a respect thing, or what's like the issue there? Why won't they put like a Stone Cold or a Triple H or a Rock or Cena? Why won't they just put them over that number and have him be number one then? Are they afraid to put someone higher?
Well, Stone Cold and Rock have only won like 4 or 5 or like 9 times. They're not even close to the record. So
I remember Rock. Yeah, Rock was notorious for always being there and favorite and cheering, and he never won his matches. Just like the Hardy Boys. I go back to the Hardy Boys because they're my favorite, but just like them, they never won.
Yeah, I do think it is the respect thing. I'm not saying Cena won't ever break it, but Triple H for like the longest time has been at like 14 and 15, and we know Triple H's respect for Flair, obviously with Evolution. And then Randy Orton's another guy who I think got to like 12 or 13, and then he's just like never won one. Like nobody wants to break it. It was years ago. Undertaker had actually been like offering people to break his streak, but the guy straight up, they were
that
straight
boggles
up.
My mind too. That's a whole other tangent to go on. I can't believe
straight up. You know, the young guys didn't do it. They didn't want to do it. Edge, Randy Orton, CM Punk. These guys didn't want to do it because they grew up on the streak and knew how much it meant. Now, Brock Lesnar could give 2 craps about anything, so of course he's going
to. Yeah,
you know, so that's going to go. And I believe
I'm sure Lesnar stood up and like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." Like, oh, shit.
Apparently, Lesnar and Taker are pretty close, despite their on-screen rivalry. But I believe there's a story back that's it was 2006. Undertaker was fighting Mark Henry at WrestleMania 22. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but it was in a casket match. And there's even a story that Vince and Taker had actually like talked about letting Mark Henry break the streak.
Oh, come on. Fucking sexual chocolate.
And the point was,
whoa.
well, the point was basically was Mark Henry and Taker. They're close. They're veterans. They've been together since the 90s. And they felt after 10 years, it was his time to kind of go on a big run. And then eventually it was just decided, no, let's have Undertaker win and we'll get back to Mark Henry. And they did. He ended up becoming a monster heel and being huge for SmackDown and got a world title run. And now he's in the Hall of Fame. So,
Mark Henry's in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. So then the thing about it was, you know, I think a lot of times it just means more to fans than the actual guys. I mean, here's Taker offering up, you know, the prize streak. And then, you know, same with the titles. These guys respect Flair so much, they don't want to break it. But I think it's the fans are going to be like, if Cena breaks it, oh my gosh, Cena broke the ultimate record of 16 world title reigns. And it's just business.
I get that.
It's just another day.
I get that in the point of you see it in today's sports even. You know,
yeah, the rivalries.
Also, LeBron joins this kind. I mean, no knock on Michael Jordan, but you're like, oh, Michael Jordan Bulls won all the titles. You're like, oh, he played on the Wizards. He came back.
Yeah. And also, you know, you see him shaking hands after the games. Fans get all wrapped up into it. And to these guys, you know, it's not necessarily just the paycheck because obviously they care, but, you know, it's just part of the game too.
They care, but to them, I think it is a bit – that's a really good point because they're able to differentiate and be like, you know, this isn't literally my life. Like, Undertaker's like, you know, shoot, I just lost at WrestleMania. Now what am I going to do with my life? Okay, I still have my millions. I still have whatever health I may have. Like, okay, I'm buddies with this guy. Like, you know, if it's like me and you and Matt and wrestle, like, oh, you win. I'm not going to go home and be like, sit at work and be like, oh, effing Justin beat me in a match. Like,
well, the whole part
I don't
too
care.
is
Like, go ahead, win. Whatever happens, happens. Like,
yeah, it's like Undertaker's move off the top rope he does. It's old school, and old school says you do eventually lose to the younger guy on your way out. So Undertaker obviously would get that part. But I'm just gonna say real quick that I am I right to say that we each have given 3 so far?
No, I didn't give mine. Matt,
okay, go ahead.
What are you at?
Oh, my third one was The Rock. And then Justin was the Cena.
Oh, yeah, because Stone Cold, Hogan. You said Rock. Justin said Mark Henry. No, Justin said Cena. So my number 3, Triple H.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
And I know a lot of people are going to hate on it, and I just don't get it. Number 1, I feel he's extremely underrated. He's right up there with title wins. I don't know the exact number, but he's got to be there with Flair. Is he not tied with him? He's got to be up there.
I think I said he's like 14 or 15, and then he stopped.
I think I heard he was at 14. I think I heard 14, some clip or whenever maybe we were talking. I thought I heard 14 for him. But again, this is a guy that Stone Cold. Yeah, his peak was amazing. It's awesome. Take away a few years. Oh, The Rock. Okay, peak for a few years. Hollywood. Oh, you know, Stone Cold always hurt. Oh, which no knock on them. Like, fine, that's great. But Triple H, they're through it all. How many times did he carry when Stone Cold was injured? And you're like, oh, The Rock then stepped in his place. But The Rock wasn't winning. Triple H was beating Mick Foley. Triple H was beating Cactus Jack and Mankind, whatever you were calling him back then. All of a sudden, then he started beating The Rock all those pay-per-views in a row. He always opened every show. We'd make fun of him and say, oh, he's always cutting a promo. He was half the show. Well, he was the damn show. You know, he was the damn game. He carried them. Every pay-per-view, every single show, he had to deliver. He was always there. The guy that played the heel perfectly, in my mind, better than anyone. And that's something I feel, again, underrated.
The cerebral assassin, step up? Yeah.
Cerebral assassin. Who's gonna do that and step in and be like, I'm willing to be the heel. I'm going to carry it. And again, not only be the heel, but again, to the point of like carrying the show.
Yeah, and you do have to perform at a level, right, in order to make it believable. Like, Stone Cold, The Rock, you're going up against these guys.
Triple H was the guy. Yeah. Triple H was the guy I loved. I also bought, his shirts and gear. And I remember kids would come up to me and be like, "You like Triple H? Like, oh, why did you buy that?" And I'm like, Are you kidding me? Like, the guy's fucking awesome. Like, the guy carries the shows.
Oh man, I love that. I love that the leather jacket with the jean jacket cut off over it.
Yep.
That's what's up. I had
the
that
jean jacket and the leather thing.
One, yeah.
Granted, I had the pipe cleaners, the super skinny arms. I was never muscular. Still am not, but we all loved it. I mean, I feel like the longevity was there when the others peak. It's almost like like the mountains. If you're looking at on a graph, Stone Cold be like, oh, there's the great big peak, and then Triple H is just that constant slant up and carrying and carrying and carrying, and then he ends up marrying Stephanie. Now he's actually in the business and running things, and he's still going out and performing at WrestleMania. He's still doing it. Like I said last year, watched WrestleMania first time in how many years? If it wasn't for Charlotte Flair and I know I'm going to butcher her name. Sorry, Asuka. Their match being up there, it would have been the Angle, Rousey, Stephanie, and Triple H match.
Yeah, I like all the points that
I just think he never gets the credit. I think he never gets the credit he's doing for a guy that's been extremely loyal to the company for 20 years at least. Like, he definitely deserves credit where Rock would have sold out in a second, would have left for Hollywood, which he did. Not to say he didn't love the business, but I feel like Triple H is like, he's bled the wrestling business. And to me, like, yeah, he's had a couple movie roles, but other than that, it's just he's withstood the test of time still. And the fact that if he still wrestles and is in a match, like, okay, I'll watch it.
Fair point.
Yeah, I think Triple H, he could probably be interchangeable with my pick of The Rock. All the points you make, I could definitely see him being on there. And to add on to what you're saying too, where now he's on the creative side of things as well. And Justin, I mean, you just know how much the company is making and so on. And as far as stock worth like that, I'm sure he has to get some credit for that to some extent. I don't know, maybe not.
Right. I would just say real quick that he had tried to go out in movies, if we remember Blade 3. So he actually did.
Blade 3 is what I thought of, yep.
He did actually try, and there were a few other ones, but, they didn't make it big. So we don't know. If a producer called him and said, we'll give you $15 million, well, let's see, save your body. Let's put him in that spot. It's easy to don't have a
movie with Kevin Hart next year.
Right, exactly. So, it's easy to say, well, he wouldn't give it up. Well, he never had the chance to. So I think the other part is about, like you said, the stock and everything. I would add more. He's basically the one running NXT, and I don't know whenever Vince, he's never going to retire, but when he eventually does slowly hand over the reins, he will run WWE, him and Stephanie.
Sure.
And, you talk about loyalty. Well, I mean, he's married into the business. I don't want to say he doesn't have a choice, but, he's in the business. That's the choice he made. So,
yeah, I mean, Shane McMahon's in the business too, and we've seen Triple H. I think Triple H is far more loyal than Shane McMahon.
Oh, absolutely, but it's different situation. Shane needed to get the heck out of his dad's shadow, and he basically, I mean, it's a kind of a joke, but he went across the country, or not country, he went across the world, he went around the globe. He went to China to start up his own thing. That's how far he wanted to get the heck out of his dad's shadow.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, it didn't go so well. It started good. It was more of like a pay-per-view TV business to kind of launch in China, but him and Linda, technically, well, not anymore. Shane came back, but him and Linda actually for years, I don't know if people knew, weren't actually a part of the company. They were just kind of married to it, so everyone just kind of assumed. And now Linda McMahon is on Donald Trump's cabinet in the White House, so clearly good friends there. And to add to that,
Linda slapped Stephanie.
Yeah, exactly. That was used against her in some other political ads. So I would say. I think the problem, not necessarily the problem, but where the debate came was last week. You had said Triple H was bigger than Stone Cold. Not that he didn't deserve to be on the Mount Rushmore, just that you would put him over Stone Cold.
Okay, well, I do use hyperbole here a lot.
Yeah.
Booze.
I do, but my point stands in that Stone Cold had the highest peak. I feel like here's our list. Here's where we're gonna always debate is gonna be that triple, no pun intended, that triple the triple wrestlers of Stone Cold, Triple H, and The Rock. Stone Cold, yes, I'll put him number one because his peak was that much better. and The Rock could never defeat that. And then The Rock's may have been the top level of popularity higher than Triple H, but Triple H's longevity, he was always there. He was, he never went away. He was always the top guy. Right. If you randomly threw him in a title match, was there ever a doubt like, oh, he can win this? He might win this. He could carry the company for the next 6 months. But The Rock towards the end, you're like, well, okay, maybe he's going to take off or whatever.
Right. And
you're like, I don't know. It's just...
Well, the counterpoint is pretty easy. I mean, saying longevity, well, Undertaker had been there 29 years, way more than Triple H. And Undertaker's been on top more.
But the Undertaker just never got that push, though.
Well, I would argue 21-0 at WrestleMania and title
when it came to WrestleMania, yeah.
So the other part,
of course, but
the other part is Ric Flair. Again, longevity. If we're talking that, he's clearly, and then it's kind of.
But again, he wasn't like put in title matches though. Triple H has always been in title matches. He's always been given mic time. You're not gonna give Triple H like the undercard like that. That's not happening.
Well, again, is Ric Flair in the undercard? No, and also title wins. Ric Flair has the record, so to say he wasn't.
I know the record, but when's the last time Ric Flair actually held a title?
Well, he's like 80 years old and retired, so again.
Hey, what? When's the last time Ric Flair held a title?
All right, so is that our number threes then?
Yeah. Were we 5 years old?
One of the things for Justin hit it with I think Triple H is the 14 champions because it's 9 reigns as WWE champion and 5 as WWE's World Heavyweight champion.
Yeah, and I mean this is where
don't forget Degeneration X. I mean, I didn't even touch on that. But
right? Yeah, you know what? And Noah, to be fair, that's a really good point. And he's held a total of 25 championships, and then nine
Intercontinental even
Right, and tag team, I'm sure DX.
Evolution was a great stable while it lasted, but not too long. But Evolution was great, helped Batista's career. Without that, Batista doesn't get his push. Orton, I feel like definitely would have got his eventually, but
and I feel
that definitely helped him. That kept Ric Flair relevant.
And longevity too. You're recreating yourself in so many words through how many eras, right? So through attitude and coming through, from more of the cleaner side of things,
Yeah, I just feel like in every era,
side, it's one to argue, but yeah,
in every era, I feel like Triple H was there, and Triple H again, he was the one I debated with between The Rock, but I just felt like he did a little bit more in the longevity, and I just can't picture Triple H not being on it, and I know no one's going to put him on there, and maybe that's why I'm putting him on there, but. Extremely underrated guy, and there's a lot we probably don't even know about behind the scenes, but I feel like he bleeds wrestling, and it's like, how do you not reward the guy for that?
I will say real quick, it's hard to it's just a slippery slope with longevity. I mean, you could count the title reigns, but Bruno Sammartino only had a couple, but one was 8 years long. So do you think gets punished now? Because
when you wrestle two guys,
Well, no, to what you're saying with longevity, I think that's just at the top of it is saying longevity, but what the longevity is, what I see when I think of the longevity for Triple H is the creative side of things, like withstanding all that, like that side of longevity. And
true, he was always inventing some himself and to stay at the top.
And I'll say real quick that we'll touch on that point a little later, hint, hint. But last year, Jeff Jarrett was inducted into their Hall of Fame, and
to WWE's.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Okay. And it wasn't necessarily for his on-screen stuff, because let's be real, he was just an intercontinental type, middle-of-the-road guy. But it was for everything he did behind the scenes that he was being rewarded with, his longevity and on and off the screen.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I always liked Jeff Jarrett. Was he ever involved in the writing process? Just a quick question, then we can go on.
Well, WCW, the inmates ran the asylum, but I will add that there has been some talk that he is actually back in the inner circle and working with the team and actually, yes, writing some of the show.
Jeff Jarrett is definitely one I would let write, and based on what I've known before and everything. I've always been a Jeff Jarrett fan.
He grew up in the business, his dad and whole family.
Yeah, he's a guy that's a lifer and another longevity guy that definitely, if you're going to rank IC titles, Jeff Jarrett's got to be at least top 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue Triple H. Again, I will get to that. But I will just add, I think the main point was, again, your comment that he deserves it over Stone Cold. I'm just going to real quick add in that I did a Twitter poll on that, and 86% voted Stone Cold, 14 Triple H. I actually expect about 90 to 95% Stone Cold. But again, the point is pretty clear there. Heel by Nature commented, LOL, is this even a question? Richard said, bigger stars Austin, but Triple H has done so much more for the industry. We won't know what we had till it's gone. So
yes, great point.
I like the way he worded that. That's really a big key. The way he worded
right,
that.
And I feel the same always.
When you're talking Mount Rushmore,
yeah, it's strictly a fan where you're just watching and that's it. You turn it off. You have nothing to do with it. Yeah, you're going to take Stone Cold every time. But as someone who's been more interested in the behind the scenes, who's read the books, who likes to hear the inside information, and get to know of a guy's life, like to me, I put Triple H in there. So
right, and then just one last quick comment. Lanny says, "Are you 5 years old?" Horrible poll. So there you go. So
welcome to the internet.
I should have said, like, what are you, 13? Go back to Call of Duty, kid.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I'm not saying that. But Matt, do you have anything to add real quick?
No.
All right. Well, I'm just going to add in a quick plug here that you are listening to the 411 Foresight Wrestling Podcast on the 411 Podcast Network. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn, YouTube, rate, review, and please give us those good subscribing things on YouTube. You know all that stuff. You don't need me to explain it. So I believe we each have one left. Is that correct?
We do.
Okay. So I thought it would be, kind of interesting to quick go through a couple of my honorable mentions, and maybe they're on your list. But first up, what do you guys think? I think close calls here, but Mick Foley.
Yeah, I could see that. He's
okay.
Not on mine. Not on an honorable mention.
Okay, I'll just add in that, just for me personally, I was a fan, and then in our NRW matches, that's the reason I had more personalities and gimmicks, is because I always loved Mick Foley's 3 Faces of Foley.
I thought that was really cool. And talking about, too, creativity and reinventing yourself, too, and the stuff he did over in Japan as well, too, or like a lot of the extreme or ECW, things like that, like just that hardcore side of him. Too.
Yeah, the death matches. And, I talked about it last week, but, it wasn't Stone Cold and Vince and everyone else. It was Foley that turned the tide in the Monday Night Wars and pretty much changed the business forever, because people so badly wanted him to reach the top of the mountain and win the title. So I'll also add real quick, it was cool when he was all 3 faces of Foley in the Royal Rumble, 3 different spots.
That is cool, and I still remember us playing the video game No Mercy. One of our favorite things to do is to create the Royal Rumble and have, each of us look away and choose guys and, surprise each other throughout it. And we knew Foley was in there with every single guy, every single persona. And I think there's no one that could probably argue who physically gave his body up for the company.
Yeah.
I mean, and also, I mean, it's every man's dream. You go to work in your sweatpants. Like, hey, you don't have to be in shape. You don't have to do anything. Just take a bump and show up. We can throw you off the cage. Just show up tomorrow on Raw. All right.
It was a little bit more than that. A little bit more than that. And actually, the top
obviously, a little more than that. But basically,
and the top of the cell was actually, well, it wasn't his idea. It's Terry Funk's idea to Mick Foley, not the company's. And they pretty much banned him from doing it till the day of the show. He convinced them. They convinced him, and then Vince pretty much said, "You're never doing anything like that again."
I mean, who else wouldn't like to pull his jizz rag out and use it as a finisher?
All right. So next on my honorable mentions, we kind of touched on him. It's a little before our time, but, breaking the record of Madison Square Garden sellouts, 8 years as champion. Then he had another 3-year reign. Bruno Sammartino, he was on some Twitter lists. And again, it may be just a different generation, but it's not even close. He was the top guy.
I knew you were going to say him. That was the guy I actually was thinking you were going to say.
No.
So I knew you would say an old school guy and him. It was him or another guy I was actually going to list as an honorable mention. I won't say him now or anything like that, but I guess, I don't really have much to say about that one, but I knew you were going to say him or someone else. So it's just giving credit where it's due, and you have to, play homage to the guys that laid the groundwork and played it forward. And whether it's against 3 guys or 5 guys or 8 guys or 10 guys, I mean, they still did it. They wouldn't give it to him without a reason.
Yeah, and we talk about Hogan setting it all in motion. Well, Bruno was before him. So next on my honorable mentions was, the Macho Man Randy Savage.
I like it. Macho Man was on mine too. I used to have his wrestling doll, wrestling figure, whatever you want to call it. So much that the underwear actually wore off on the back of him.
Oh boy.
It's a weird thing to say. I know, I get it, but yeah, Macho Man definitely. I mean, he was into the Slim Jim and the commercials. People remember him most from, but the storylines, even with him, I think that's where it started, where you actually cared, and it wasn't just a guy's gimmick and he wrestled. Like,
yeah,
the whole Elizabeth story, and it actually was heartfelt and it was a legitimate thing. And then also with him and Hogan and also Warrior later, like,
I will add, he's kind of similar to Roddy Piper in my book, where, he's clearly, close, but, it was the Hogan era. And I'll quick add that something that may have hurt him. Everybody that went to WCW could name Hall, Nash, Hogan, Flair. I could name pretty much everybody. They all eventually came back. They mended the fences, even Bruno Sammartino, who swore up and down. Sable filed a $40 million lawsuit against the company. 2 years later, she was back. Obviously, Owen Hart died. Bret Hart swore against the company forever. Yeah. He eventually came back. Randy Savage never came back.
And that's a shame. Because growing up as a kid, I know we didn't watch regular Justin or anything, but randomly when we watch or see something, Macho Man was the one that kind of stuck out to me. So he's the one that I would remember, oh yeah, I remember him, or oh okay, I like I said, I used to have the action figure, the doll of him, and it's I remember those not like pillow pets, but they were the
I know what you mean.
You remember those the pillow guys?
For sure.
Yeah, and I remember the Macho Man one of him too. So.
All right, Matt, do you have anything to add on Savage?
No, I thought Savage is a good one. One that I had was Andre the Giant.
Okay.
Yep. That's a good one. That's the one I thought Justin was going to list.
Okay, I'll say that, similar size and stuff, but, I don't think he's going to be on anyone's list, but I will quick add in Big Show. I also have Bret Hart written down. I have probably who I think is the greatest, and I think 2 people had him on Twitter, but Shawn Michaels.
See, yeah, he's on mine, on my honorable mentions at least.
Okay, and then I have written down Roman Reigns, but I do not believe anybody from this era is quite there. Again, in 10, 20 years, we can talk about it, but I think Cena is so much at the tail end of his career that we can talk about him. But today's era guys, I don't, we'll find out in years.
Yeah, a lot of the honorable mentions were kind of already listed. The Rock for sure, just because it was him and Triple H back and forth. Flair was an honorable mention, of course. You have to mention him. Like what guy doesn't look at Flair and says I want to be him. Men want to be him. Women want to be with him. To be the man, you have to beat the man. Woo!
Right.
The guy. Okay, is he 70? He's got to be 70. And he was almost near death, and it's hearing that, you're it brings a tear to your eye. No, not Flair. He's the guy. You're oh, he's gonna outlive me. He's still gonna be with women. He's still gonna be wheeling, dealing, taking bumps.
Yeah.
Well, he's the guy that you think you just never dies. He
was just on Raw a few weeks ago. And it was part of his big birthday celebration in Atlanta, which was the home base of WCW. So it was kind of cool there, a little history. But, Triple H was out there talking him up, saying how great he was, blah, 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 him turning 70 and how amazing he is and all this 70. Stuff. And then he goes, and let's bring the man out. And then there was a pause and everyone was standing there. All the legends had returned for this one night. They had, the cake and the balloons and everything. And all of a sudden, there was nothing. And then the music played, and then Triple H and everyone started looking around. Shawn Michaels, Stephanie, all the legends are all kind of, and then they're like, okay. And then they go to the big screen, and who makes his return after 5 years? Batista, and he's in back dragging Ric Flair by his neck.
What?
Yep. That's how he came back, and then he looked at Triple H and said, do I have your attention now? and then the show ended, and that's leading us to Triple H.
They're gonna wrestle. They have to.
Yeah, they are. So it was a big thing. And WrestleMania.
All right, we're getting it right here, right now. We're getting it. We're gonna get together. We're watching it.
Oh, I've talked about this a few times, but Batista wanted to come back for one last match with Triple H, and that was the story that started. I think it was a month and a half ago. So I think Batista is going to go out, especially because now they've added in Batista wants Triple H's career on the line, so that pretty much forecasts intent that Triple H is probably going to win. And, obviously not retire. And then Batista can go out losing, which is what most people do. You lose your last match. That's kind of how it works. And then Batista can get his final wish. So I did have Batista written down as honorable mention. I had Kane. I had Undertaker. I had Kane and Undertaker. I had Undertaker too. We already talked about them a little bit, but I have Ric Flair. I have The Rock. So we've obviously talked about them. Who else do you guys got for honorable mentions?
I had Sting.
Okay,
I was trying to stretch and think of more like a WCW guy, and I feel like he reinvented himself too, and that's kind of why I wanted to give him a nod.
Oh, absolutely! If you're talking WCW, it's Sting.
Yeah.
So you didn't really? I'm surprised by that.
No, it's Sting.
Not Gilbert.
You mean Goldberg? No.
Gilbert.
I mean Gilbert, the gobbledygooker. Okay, anyway. No, seriously, Sting over Goldberg?
I love Sting, Goldberg.
Late 80s, 90s.
I'm shocked that Matt said Sting over Goldberg.
I just can't put Goldberg on a Mount Rushmore because I tried to go with like innovation or something. But to me, Sting was always hurt and never there. Granted, I never watched WCW as much as WWE, but it seems everyone was always talking about Sting, and I never saw him wrestle. I literally never saw a match with Sting. Yeah, I mean,
I never saw a match with Sting. I'll be honest.
It's tough. It's tough, and I couldn't really. He always
had a bat with him. Like,
yeah.
It reminds me of my dad when that one night he said, "All right, Noah, let's fight. No weapons," as he's rolling up a newspaper. Like, okay, no weapons. And I said, "I'll play chin music, you." And he goes, "What'd you say to me?"
What'd you say? I'll say that Sting's bad. Sting's bad. You could make a comparison to Triple H's Sledgehammer, huh?
No, not really.
Well, anyways, if we're talking WCW, it's clearly Sting. He was there late 80s through the 90s, and the final match of WCW Nitro was Sting winning. Goldberg had a 2-year run, and let's be honest, so
and that's what makes me not even Goldberg. Close. Don't get it twisted, but it was the length of it, and it.
They called him the franchise for a reason. It wasn't even close. Sting is WCW and has been. Goldberg had a 2-year run.
I never saw him wrestle.
Well.
He was always in a promo and always in the video games and shows, and he just was never there. It's like DDP. The only time I ever saw him was a diamond cutter.
Well, the same
throwing David Arquette off a cage,
that never happened. But the same argument goes to Stone Cold. He actually had 3 years where he had a neck injury, and think of all the Stone Cold highlights: the Zamboni, the Beer Bash, the Stunners. Those weren't matches because he couldn't wrestle.
Yeah, I remember he was true. Majority of our time he was hurt and would come back randomly or chair shots, stunners, and
exactly. And he was hurt, so the storyline with Sting was similar, what everyone knows him for, but it led up to him versus Hogan, and it was the biggest buy rate in WCW history. So him and
was it? Okay, I didn't know that.
So again, not even close.
Who won that match?
Sting won it. So any other
my God.
Oh boy.
Mine is blown here tonight.
Yeah. So any other honorable mentions? I got 2 more, and then I have my number 4.
I say go for it. Lay it on us. All in a row.
I'm gonna actually honorable mention. We kind of listed them all. I had Cena, I had Undertaker, Flair, Rock, Macho Man, Andre the Giant, Sable.
No.
I'll give you props for throwing
no Sable? No.
No. You're going to get bad Forbes on that one.
All right.
Just a heads up. She had 2 years and then left. And like I said, $40 million lawsuit. In the history of the business.
How many other people had lawsuits and how many other women wrestled? No other women wrestled. Fabulous Mae Young and Moolah and all them. That doesn't count.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not even going to count that. I'm going to put up a Twitter poll and let the 99% speak for itself. But I'm going to say I have 2 honorable mentions. I will say, if we talk about behind the scenes, how do you not include Vince McMahon?
Yeah.
Yep.
Vince McMahon, clear honorable mention. But here's why I do not have him on my Mount Rushmore, even though, I mean, you probably should put him on there. The reason I'm not putting him on is, to me, he's not on the Mount Rushmore. He's the one sculpting it.
Ooh, that was poetic.
Yes, thank you.
I like that.
Right.
That's good.
It took them all week to decide that.
Actually, I wrote that a few times, so I've stolen it from myself. But I will say, obviously, Vince McMahon, again, we're talking longevity. Well, he's the one who's been doing it all for 40 years. So, not Triple H, not Stone Cold Hogan. It's been Vince the whole time.
Yeah.
So, again, if we're talking that way. So I don't know if you guys have him as your 4th, but here's my little teaser that I said I have a little surprise for everyone. And here is my last honorable mention that just barely missed the cut. None other than Triple H.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Holding on.
Let's talk more. Talk
Holding
more.
on.
Why did he not make the cut, and why is he an honorable mention?
Well, here's the deal. The problem with last week was saying he deserved it over Stone Cold, which he clearly doesn't. But that's not to say he doesn't deserve being on. And it's similar to the Jeff Jarrett situation where, we talk about all the title wins and all the great matches and manias and all that stuff. But, he's only, I don't even know how old, but he may in 20 years be more remembered for being a Vince McMahon than an in-ring performer.
Which might be true.
Triple H is 49.
Okay, there you go. He's got another 20, 30 years. Yeah. So
the guy looks like he's younger than me.
Well, the part with Triple H, and I mentioned it, was he's running NXT right now. This is pretty much a, I guess, test run. And I don't know if you have seen the reviews or the shows or anything, but NXT knocks Raw and SmackDown and pay-per-views out of the water every single time, and it's not even close. And Triple H is in charge of that. So if that's a sign of things to come, I mean, it's going to be amazing, because what he's done with NXT, and this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, but it was just announced this week that, as I've been mentioning for months, it was finally confirmed Monday, the women will indeed main event WrestleMania this year. And as I said last time, Matt, I told you this a year ago in our podcast, it was going to happen.
Right.
And it is happen. And the one spearheading all this women is Triple H. And I can tell you, well, I don't want to do the sources gimmick, but I can tell you it was after his 3 daughters were born. And what is he going to think of his girls looking up to? Women in mud matches and bra and panties, or strong, powerful athletes, hence Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, in the main event of WrestleMania, and they were just on ESPN SportsCenter and leading the charge in what I'm guessing is about 80,000 at MetLife Stadium. And I'm also going to guess a new record-breaking WrestleMania in terms of numbers, with them as the main event.
Yeah.
So what is his daughters going to look up to more? So that is my story on Triple H. Any thoughts on him being my surprise honorable mention?
That is a surprise honorable mention. Again, I've touched on why he would be on my Mount Rushmore, but more so, you really think his backstage, off the screen stuff tallies more so than his wrestling?
I think it will eventually. Right now, he's pretty much running the company with Stephanie, but it's still Vince McMahon technically, if you want to get whatever. But in 20 years, I mean, let's be real. Vince is however old, so let's be real. And in 20 years, yes, Triple H may be remembered more for that.
I think Vince is 73. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's like arguing that in 2001, it's like saying, The Rock will be remembered more for movies than wrestling. You laugh and be like, what? What are you talking about? He's been in 2 movies.
Rock 100% is more so movies than wrestling.
Well, right. That's what I mean. So now 20 years later, yes, he is. So at the time, no.
And I feel like that's a big shame, though. And that's why I have Triple H on my Mount Rushmore.
Well, right.
And not to take away, again, everything you mentioned, which I get. Like, if there's anyone to take over Vince, you're like, oh, you line up Shane, you line up Triple H. Triple H is going to be the one to carry it.
Well,
and
right.
I agree with that, but, like, again, that's why he's on my Mount Rushmore, is because no one's going to remember what he did for wrestling. No one's going to remember his matches, what he carried through. And especially when you're like, oh, man, Foley, he took this match against Triple H and blah, 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 that. Like, Triple H was in the match, too. He took the tacks. He took the falls, too, in Hell in a Cell. He took all the cage matches. Like,
right, and it's already been decided that Triple H
paid his dues. He literally paid his dues.
Well, right. It's going to Stephanie and Triple H. That's kind of one of the reasons Shane also left, is he pretty much saw the writing on the wall. So it is going to Triple H and Stephanie. That's, already been decided, and it's already been set in motion. So I have Triple H as my final honorable mention. Anybody want to start with their final four, or should I go?
I think you can go.
Yeah, I think you should go.
All right. Honestly, I don't have a whole lot to add because this person could be, you could put Rock, Flair, Undertaker even. I feel we kind of overlooked him a little bit, but you could also put Triple H. I'm not going to argue any of those, but Noah was right. I do have Andre the Giant.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
It was almost it was going to be him, Bruno, Rock.
See,
Rock.
I was right. I thought you kind of tricked me there with the Bruno talk and then no honorable mention. Sorry.
Yeah, I had Bruno because, again, without him, there's no Hogan before that. And it's like saying people like, oh, Babe Ruth is the greatest. Well, most people are going to mention someone from this era or the last era like Barry Bonds. But, it's just before the time. So I think it's just basically everything Hogan and Stone Cold and everything. You can just go right back. And big thing for me was, yes, Andre did movies and stuff, but I'm talking, this is the wrestling Mount Rushmore. So we all love The Rock, but like I said, he's more of the Hollywood Mount Rushmore. So Andre was wrestling. He lived and breathed it. And you mentioned Andre the Giant, you're not going to think of anything else. You're going to talk about him 7 foot whatever, standing over everybody else. So I honestly don't have a lot to say.
Like 100 beers a night.
Right. So he's just that much of a legend where the stories and myths about him grow and grow by the day. I'll add him, but to be fair, I could change it up. And if anyone wants to argue with me, I'm not really going to put up too much of a fight.
I can't argue Andre the Giant.
But you're number 4.
My number 4 is going to be Vince McMahon.
Nice.
Because he, again, like you said, the creator, the sculptor, it literally does not exist without his dad. It does not exist without Vince. He's the mastermind behind everything. Yeah, he's been taken to court. Yeah, there's been rumors, but
he beat it.
I mean, he beat it. Like he stood the test of time. And a thing that really sticks out to me, I mean, I feel like we could literally go on and on with Vince stories here, and we might. But one that sticks out to me was reading Mankind's book, where he was like, I could think of an idea at 2 a.m. Vince McMahon could be making love to his wife. I could call him with an idea, and Vince is going to pick up and listen to me and hear it out. Like
right,
that's the dedication. That's a guy that lives and breathes the wrestling business and just the dedication. And to me that sticks out because it kind of reminds me of more of what I do for a living in the funeral home business, where my owner, who is available 24/7, whether it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I have a question, something comes up that I may not know, and I call him and he instantly answers. He's there, and it shocks me, and it's still to this day, like, he's there and available, and like that to me is like someone you look up to. That's someone that shows dedication. And then Vince still goes and puts it on the line, though. Like, right. I know he used to announce. He used to set the stage up for guys, and he understood that building up a character, building up like, oh my God, this is the choke slam. Like, oh, there's that dangerous DDT, like setting it up like, okay, this DDT is dangerous. Like, oh, the choke slam, now that's a finisher to look out for. And then all of a sudden he became involved in the storyline, and then he understood that aspect of it. So we talk about all the wrestlers that evolved. Vince, like, literally lived his whole life evolving and learning it and advancing not just $1 million business, $1 billion business. And it's like, how do you not look at the guy and just think like, my God, what a mind. What like someone who literally puts it on the line. I mean, he's had how many injuries going out there.
Right.
he wasn't always the most graceful, and sometimes you feel bad for it. It's like, oh, great. The one time he gets in the ring, all of a sudden he gets hurt, and you're like, man, I wish I could have seen what happened with this storyline or that storyline, or even with other wrestlers even. But it's like he's always involved. He's at every show. I mean, okay, maybe not every show, but like he's there. He's on top of it. Like he's just there for his guys. He's there for the wrestlers. How many times, besides going to court, but like rehab, like how many people that go through rehab even? It's just there's so many off the storyline stuff that like he's there. He puts his own money on the line, and it's just I just can't think of any other owner that would do that, especially in sports. They wouldn't. They cut guys,
Right.
you know, baseball, basketball, football. Oh, there's a rumor of something. Oh, cut. Vince, fuck it. You'll put you through a program. I'll stick by you. I'll do it 4 times if it takes. I feel like he gets it. He understands it. But at the same time, he still gets business. And it's just so many different levels of him. I feel like, again, as much as Hogan was on top and Hogan's synonymous with wrestling, nothing exists without Vince McMahon. And he's a guy that, again, music hits, all of a sudden, you know, the No Chance in Hell, like what we grew up on, it still was like, oh my God, here comes Vince. Like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, you knew something big was going to happen. You knew that you were going to be watching now for the next few months. You knew you were going to be glued to your TV. And to me, I just can't picture wrestling without Hogan. But then on another level, like Vince, it could, because it would not exist without him.
I agree. Matt, do you have anything to add? I have 4 things written down I want to say.
No,
jeez.
no, yeah. Vince is my 4th, and I mean, I can already hear them like
There you go.
chiseling that grin that he has right under the mountain.
Yeah.
You know? Hey, look at me, kind of. You know,
Good one.
But yeah, no, go for it, Justin. Bring us home.
Well, I'm just, not entirely shocked, but I'm just actually a little impressed that, those would be the final force for you two. I'll just quick say that, something that I think everybody wants as a boss is somebody that understands and has been in your shoes. They can relate to you. So falling off the cage, Vince actually did that. He did that himself.
I remember, yeah.
And the part with Shawn Michaels, the WrestleMania 12 entrance when he came down from the ceiling on the whole thing, Vince tried it out first in the day to show that it worked and to show Shawn Michaels how to do it.
Wow.
So he wouldn't ask anybody else to do something he wouldn't do, which I think something we all want in a boss.
That's awesome. I did not know that about him, but again, that adds more to it. And I'm not trying to get on a personal level here, but again, that I feel like that's where I'm at in my life. And you see the owner do things, and they do it. They've told you stories. They show you. They do it, and you're like, wow, okay, that happens. But that's the thing. Like, in every man wants to see. It's easy to say, like, oh, go do this, go do that. Like, okay, well, you do it. No, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
Well, right. The difference.
Yeah, like, well, why should I then? Like,
yeah, the difference between a boss and a leader, right? So he's gonna.
right, yeah, great point. Awesome point. Vince is a leader. Vince is absolutely a leader.
On the quick point,
he says something, you listen, you do it. Great point.
I think on the rehab part, yes, anybody who ever worked there, even if it's been 5 minutes, every single year in the beginning, a letter is sent out to every past and current superstar, everybody, that they get free rehab paid for them if they chose it. And I believe a few guys have done it like 10 or 12 times, but they keep doing it if they need it. Others have done it a few or once or whatever. And obviously then afterwards came out and said, huge thanks to the company, blah, blah, blah. But yes, every year in January, everybody, even if you were there for 5 minutes, gets a letter from the company saying all expense paid rehab if you need it. So I don't know how many other companies do that, but they do it. And
no.
Yeah.
Talking about the Hogan comparison, how, it's him. The story has always been that Vince McMahon would be the quarterback. He would throw the ball and Hogan would run and catch it, and they'd score a touchdown.
All right. Again, to your Patriots point, Brady and Belichick, Vince and Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
kind of synonymous in my mind. Like you can't have Hogan without Vince. You can't have Vince without Hogan.
Yeah. Do you have a Mount Rushmore without George Washington on it?
Yeah, and I was actually going to think of that point and totally forgot to write it down. But like you said, I was actually going to allude to the legitimate, actual Mount Rushmore. Like,
right.
George Washington's there. Like, why would he never not be there? So to me, it was kind of that same thinking along Vince.
I think. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Matt, do you have any other points? What were your Vince points? Because you also had them with me.
No, just pretty much what you guys said. You guys nailed it. From the creative aspect to purely running it, as a business. It's something he's passionate about, but still a business, and so it's a money machine. Yeah, it's awesome. You have to admire it to some extent.
Yeah, the $7 billion company now it's grown to, and they've just signed with Fox, which starts in October for $2 billion. Yes, Fox. So, Matt, I'll quick say that I did send you a message on Hangouts. I don't know if you saw it, but to add to the Vince point, I'll say that everything that's happened in entertainment, he was always leading the charge. For instance, Closed Circuit. Well, guess who was doing that with WrestleMania before everyone else? Pay-per-view business exploded. Well, besides boxing, guess who else was doing that? Vince McMahon. The 90s then came along, cable TV. Well, guess who was leading the charge with Raw every single Monday night?
I do remember looking in the papers, because they used to show the papers, the top 10 or something for cable. I remember being in Mrs. Milky's English class. She always had the newspaper available, and I would always check the ratings, and wrestling was always up there. I'd be like, I remember that Raw. I remember watching that one.
Yeah, and I think
that happened. And Josh would be like, how do you remember that? How do you know? I'm like, dude, it was last week. It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then if anything, it made me want to go back and be like, oh, man, that was great. I want to go back and watch it again.
Oh, sure.
And currently, I think they're on 6 or 7 weeks, winning the night. But I'll also then add now, what's the big thing these days is the streaming sites. Well, WWE Network was actually one of the first outside of Netflix and Hulu to start their own. Now you have CBS All Access, and now you have all the different companies and channels are starting their own little thing. Well, the network was ahead of it. UFC is just getting to it now. But again, WWE Network pretty much took it away, and now they've evolved to the next step. Adding on to the rehab part, I'll add, even before baseball and everybody else, WWE had their wellness policy, which is basically drug testing. So once again, they were ahead of the curve on all of this, and that includes concussions, which 9 years ago, they banned chair shots to the head. You no longer see those and haven't since 2010. So again, they were ahead of everything with the concussions, and that goes back to working with Chris Nowinski, who is a former superstar. He is the one leading the charge. So all this talk in football and sports you hear about, it's from Chris, and obviously that started with WWE. So Vince always ahead of the curve.
I get that point totally. I remember it. Do not try this at home. Chris Nowinski, tough enough. We did it. It happened. WWE Network. The thing with me on that, just quickly, totally off tangent, is I feel like there's too much stuff. I want to go back and I want to watch every Raw. I want to watch every SmackDown.
Right. I understand that. And that's why there's something for everyone. The network's worth it even if you don't watch a single second of the product today, and vice versa. Even if you just watch the 3 hour, well, they're 4 hours now, 4 hour pay-per-view each month, it's still worth the $9.99 instead of paying $60.
Yeah.
So
do people actually pay $60 a month to do that?
No, because when the network started, basically not all, but most cable companies pretty much then, stopped airing them because it was like, well, you're bypassing us. And the point was, yes, you are. Because for all those record-breaking buy rates for the Hogan and Stone Cold era, cable companies got 50% of that. Because they were
man, okay.
The network now,
that's a big chunk.
The network is owned and run by them. So it's pretty much 100% goes to them, not 50%. So again, they're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, not again, Vince, not only the wrestling mind, putting the body mind, creativity mind, but the business mind, the money-making mind. Like you said, the pay-per-view, I didn't know that the other companies previously got 50%. That's a huge chunk.
Right.
Who didn't think, you look back and you're like, why would you not think before then to do your own? I mean, to give up 50%, my God. I remember looking back, growing up, and it was like pay-per-view, it was either a wrestling event or it was a boxing event.
Yeah.
And now to think that the company's got 50%, geez.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, it's the whole cutting the cord now. People just don't want to be paying $200
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course not.
So it's like, no, I want to pick what I want to watch. And if I just want WWE, well, I'm just going to pay $9.99 a month and watch the network or the pay-per-views each month. And
I get that. It's totally worth it.
And I mean, even the Raws and SmackDowns, I mean, that's on a month delay because of the $2 billion contracts with USA Network and Fox. So they can't obviously air them there. They paid for exclusive content. But a month later, yeah, even those are added to the network. So you could still even be current, just paying $9.99 a month. I mean, you might have to wait a little bit, but
for someone like me, that might be the thing.
Right. And I mean, it's still a free month, if you take a free month to new subscribers, and there are back ways of just having a new email. Well, then you could just do another free trial. So there's all those.
I'm not going to lie. I took my free month last year with Fastlane and WrestleMania.
Right. So it's always continuing. It's no different than Netflix or Hulu, whatever. They offer, the first 30 days free or first week or whatever. But I'm going to go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, just on that, then after Fastlane and WrestleMania, I went back to the 2000 year because that was my favorite year ever of wrestling. And also, I started watching every SmackDown and Raw leading up, and it was like within a month, I'm like, I only went through like 3 weeks because there's just so much to watch. So much to watch.
Yeah.
I'm like, my God, I missed this. This was amazing. But again, it was like, there's so much material to watch in that time.
And it's even, they have AWA. Imagine watching every single thing of that. They have all the WCW. They have every single ECW thing. They have the Raw, the SmackDowns. They have the original programming. Obviously, like I said, they have today's product. They have like ride along where they follow guys around on the road when they drive the city to city. That's always cool.
And that's cool, but that's why they pay you the big bucks and not me to do this. So
right. So the shows keep going. I'm just going to quick say Hogan, Stone Cold, Rock, Vince. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, how do you feel about your Mount Rushmore?
I like it. As we go over these two, I would feel more confident swapping out The Rock, because kind of like you said, for wrestling, what would be like groundbreaking or something you couldn't picture them without. You couldn't picture without wrestling, but no, I'll stick with it.
Okay, Noah, you have Hogan, Stone Cold, Triple H, and Vince. How do you feel?
I really, really like it. Just based almost again on Matt's point, because Stone Cold's peak beat Rock's, but Triple H's I just can't take away. I just can't take away what he did, and our honorable mentions are close.
Yeah.
But Triple H, and then also again on Justin's point, if you're going to think 20, 30 years from now, well, just that fact. So you're literally putting a guy 50, 60 years in the business. How do you not name him?
Right.
So I feel he's going to get his unjust due and very underrated. I can't leave Triple H out, and I also can't leave out Stone Cold, Hogan, and Vince. So therefore, I'm standing by my list.
Right, I do agree. Triple H, I think in time will probably get there. I have Hogan, Stone Cold, Cena, and Andre. Obviously, I wanted something from a previous generation, and then something from today. I mean, ending at Stone Cold is pretty much like saying the last 20 years didn't matter, which it doesn't, because it's bigger than ever worldwide. And I will quick add in a little plug here. 411 Foresight Wrestling Podcast you're listening to on the 411 Podcast Network, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn, YouTube, and please, as always, rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. I have a little surprise topic I wanted to bring up.
Shoot.
Here we go. It is not wrestling, so if you care to turn off right now, I do not mind. I totally get it. And I will also tell you that there will be spoilers involved right here. So here's your spoiler alert. I want a quick little discussion on the movie Us in theaters right now. What did you guys think?
No, you lead the way.
I saw it. I was super hyped up for it. I absolutely love Get Out. Get Out was the best movie I saw that year. Get Out was the number one movie of 2017. Black Panther 2018. Us, I was thinking the same thing. I just didn't feel it throughout. I just kept almost like waiting for something to happen, waiting for a twist. And I feel like maybe that's why we're spoiled in today's world. But also I look back as a kid and I'm like, I was scared of a lot of movies. I was scared of It the Clown. I was scared of Children of the Corn, The Shining. But for this, I was like, if I was a kid, there's nothing I would be afraid of. I felt like it was almost a run-of-the-mill scary movie. The twist, okay, I didn't see coming. I won't say it, but I didn't see it coming. But I just felt like it wasn't enough to kind of move the needle to me, where I felt like I have to see it again and put it up there as a great horror movie or whatever, thriller, whatever twist movie, like M. Night movie, whatever you want to say. I don't know if your movie offers a $5 Tuesday like Marcus Cinema does near where we live, but that's what I would put it at. If you paid full price, $15, food, soda, paying $30 for it, not worth it. I give it maybe a 5 out of 10.
All right, Matt.
I'd give it like I'd probably rate it a little bit better, maybe like a 6 or a weak 7 out of 10, just for like it was good, original enough. Like there weren't that many jump scares. You know, it wasn't like tacky. It can be really easy to just play a violin really loud and scare the shit out of somebody. Like
Right.
he's like, but I liked it
Go
that
on.
way. I don't think you needed to see it in the theater to get the full experience out of it. Not to take away from them or with them trying to make money, but I mean, like, I think it'd be like this October when it's on Netflix, like, or by the time it comes out, you know, like it'd be a good movie. Make a bag of popcorn and check it out. But how about you? How about you, Justin?
I'll say I think you were complimenting him here, so I'm just double checking. Yeah, Jordan Peele doesn't, he doesn't want to do the jump scares because that is kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It was a
That's
compliment.
fine. And I think he's
I like
a great
it.
mind. I definitely want him to keep making movies. I'm still going to see his movies.
For
I'll
sure.
say that.
Definitely want to
Yeah.
support the
It
cause.
is,
Definitely.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying definitely keep making movies. Definitely like his mind. I like where he's headed. I feel like maybe he was almost anointed too soon.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, sure.
I still, give him time. Give him time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely give him time, and he's going to grow into his own. Like M. Night got there, like Alfred Hitchcock got there, like Stanley Kubrick got there.
Yeah. Great
Definitely
comparison.
those guys bring, to my mind. And yeah, I mean, it's fine worth seeing, but I'm just not going to pay like, $30 a ticket and didn't think it was as great as the hype was. That's all. And maybe I hyped it up too much because I literally was looking forward to this for like weeks straight.
Yeah.
I think it's already doubled what Get Out made, so clearly, but I will.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like the hype though.
Yeah, it's the hype. So we'll see repeat business and how it continues to do. So I agree with that. I wrote down a bunch of notes about the movie,
Okay.
and some of them you may have caught on to, but I may feel that this may change your opinion on it once you kind of add everything up. So I'm going to start off by saying when she entered the house, again, we're in spoiler mode here. So when they originally entered the house, you'll notice that she told the mom to handcuff herself to the table.
Yeah.
That was payback from when they were little, and she handcuffed her to the bed. Okay. Did you catch that part?
I didn't pick up on.
Okay. There's a list here that you probably didn't pick up on.
Yes,
How about the
yes.
later
Okay.
trick?
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Notice why the little
Yep.
boy had a burnt face?
Yeah.
Because the kid kept doing the lighter trick, and he was doing it burning himself.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Oh, boy.
Mankind and Cain.
Okay.
So now remember when the girl went flying into the woods and landed in the tree?
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Remember what the mom went and did?
Watched her.
She went and she gave sympathy on the little girl because she was in her spot as a young girl.
Okay.
She was sympathizing with her because she was in the same spot. So she went and held her and was with her on her dying moments.
I get it. Because like
I will remember
I did notice
another.
that she showed sympathy. I just didn't fully understand it at that time. Okay.
Now, quick add in also when the boy was backing up to die in the fire at the end, she was screaming not to do it. She was again putting sympathy on the kid because she knew.
Wait,
So
was she?
yeah, she was yelling for the guy, the little kid. Now, do you remember what the little girl's shirt was in the beginning?
Thriller.
Do you remember how the Thriller video ended?
Michael Jackson eating popcorn, laughing as like a zombie guy.
It was him revealing he was bad all along.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
That's a good one.
Right.
Okay.
So there you go. They told
all the
us.
stuff I've read online
Wow.
after the movie, it wasn't any of that stuff. That's a good
Right.
that's a good one.
So they told you how it was going to end. Again, it's an M. Night type thing. But do you know why the girl had the raspy voice?
No, because she didn't know how to talk.
Because she got choked, so the girl wouldn't talk as a young girl.
Who choked her?
What? The girl in the mirror.
Oh, she did choke her?
Yeah, when she reached out and choked her.
I thought she like just touched her, and by her touching her was like her power to knock her unconscious or something.
No.
No. And I will quick add the little boy. There's a lot of talk about the little boy, if he's one of the tethered or not. He's not. But
okay, I would have
remember-
guessed that he was.
remember when the mom killed the twin at the end and was just like wailing on her in the kitchen.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
As she was killing her there, and as she was killing the doppelganger, she was grunting. She had been resorting back to her previous self. She was making the grunting noises.
Sure. Rachel noticed that.
So the kid knew.
And then the kid noticed, yes, and stared at her.
See,
So
Rachel is good at noticing all that stuff.
Yeah, she's pretty.
And she actually, note on that, she actually like was messaging me about it and stuff like, oh, did you know that? I'm like, oh, did you hear this? And like, I was like, no, I didn't pick up on that. She's like, you didn't? I was like, I'm a moron. No.
She's really perceptive. Yeah, she
was like, oh, when did you realize it was this? I'm like, I didn't. I was like, I didn't. She's like, well, what? You didn't know this? I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a moron. I'm like, damn it. She always figures that out with stuff too. Like, she's really good at that.
Yeah,
there is a part of people that do think the little boy's, part of it.
I thought he was after the movie.
No.
Me and my girlfriend saw it, and I was like, so is the boy one of them?
No, because he was talking. But there's a part of it that says the dad had mentioned earlier that he had been acting weird since their grandma died. And another part was right before the family invaded their home, the mom told him to get the bat, and he didn't know where to go. He just stood there. And obviously he would know. But I'll quick add, the homeless guy, if you remember him standing on the beach, he was wearing red underneath his. He was part of the tethered.
Yeah.
I would be the homeless guy.
There was a scene where they were sitting on the couch, and they showed a spider crawling. It was crawling away from a spider little memorial thing.
Yeah.
So it was a real one going away from a fake one. And there's another part in the movie where the song is playing on the radio and the mom is doing the beat. Remember that?
Yeah.
She was horribly off key because, she didn't get it. And in the beginning, it wasn't that she didn't want to go back to the beach. Is she didn't want to go back to that beach because obviously she knew if she went back to the crime, she might be caught.
I get it. Because I was watching that. I'm like, she isn't really with the beat because she's even trying to tell him like, oh, get with the rhythm. I'm like, she's not really getting with the rhythm, but I didn't feel like it was my place to tell her that.
Exactly. And another part that I saw added was, how they did the beginning with the united hands and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, they said the United States of whatever it was, the handhold or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, the movie is called Us, United States. So that could play into it.
Didn't know that either.
When the movie started and they flipped through the TV channels, there was another movie and then Goonies. Well, what's the Goonies? The guy underneath. It was about underground, a world underneath. So again, it was telling you what was coming.
Sure.
So put your Jordan Peele movies on a Mount Rushmore.
Well, there's only two. But just a quick go through these. There's more. I still
put Triple H on a Jordan Peele Mount Rushmore. I'm sorry.
I'm sure you would. The other part was obviously Gilbert. Somebody had to lead the charge underground. Obviously, that was the girl. If you notice also the car sticker on the back of their car, it was the family holding hands.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, sure.
That was a little hint.
Good one. Okay.
In the beginning, the girl had a red candy apple, signifying red, and then there was the scene where the red frisbee covered the blue circle, and the mom just stared at it.
I didn't get that one.
It was about her again, the tethered covering up the red, And if you're wondering about the Jeremiah 11:11 quote,
that one I looked up.
Okay, that one, but I'll also add that. Do you remember what the time clock said as the invasion happened?
11:11.
Okay. The clock said 11:11.
Yeah.
And that is the only time during the day 4 numbers are lined up in a row.
Sure.
1, 1, 1, 1. There's another part where if you look at the poster, the scissors head, it looks like either rabbit ears or it looks like 2 heads, but looking in different directions.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko.
You will remember the beginning, the little girl started whistling.
Oh, rabbits.
The little girl was whistling when she went to the mirror room.
Yeah.
And then when the invasion happened, she started whistling again because it was the same girl.
Okay.
And that was a clue. And obviously, when the mom was staring at everyone during the invasion, she quick looked at the daughter and said, "Put on your shoes." And sure enough, she told her to run. So she knew it was coming because she knew what she was doing, because it was basically her.
Sure.
Same with the spare key. How do you think the mom found it?
Right.
The mom got the spare key because she knew where it was.
Okay.
The final battle scene, notice how the girl kept like running into the knife?
Yeah.
Do you remember like she just looked foolish, like trying to stab and being horrible?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did think of that. I'm like, what a moron. Like, why are you constantly...
It's because of the dancing. They don't have the movements. That's why they all walked funny. She was trying to do something, but the mom already knew what she was doing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but here's the thing after all that.
There's 2 more.
Oh, God.
All right.
Okay.
Well, the other one is the shirt that she wears gets redder and redder, obviously from blood, but it's signifying that, she is one of the tethered. So It gets redder and redder throughout. And then the final one is they can't, I don't know about this one, but they can't kill their own. Remember when the twin had her down and she basically just laid on her?
Oh, sure.
What do you mean?
Well, they didn't ever kill her. The blonde family, the tethered version of her, had her behind and was going to stab her, but didn't because she was one of them. So they didn't kill their own.
Okay.
So they always had the chance. But anyways, needless to say, I liked it. I'll give it about a 9. I think it's like M. Night.
Gosh.
I would see this one again, unlike Captain Marvel. I will say that it's one of those where if you just add it up and not walk out of the theater going, well, what was that crap? Well, you need to think about it.
Was that piece of shit?
And obviously the kid looking at her he now knows. That's why the mom gave him that little talk.
Right.
But he walked in when she was taking the scissors. Clearly she looked like she knew what she was doing with them as she destroyed this twin. And then at the end, when she freaking choked the girl with the handcuffs and was grunting, and she looks over, and the kid is in the locker watching her. And it's like, uh-oh.
The kid grunted, and I thought the kid grunted at the end, and that's when I was like, is he one of them?
No, I don't think so. There are theories that he is, but I don't think he is.
I don't think so either.
Every other clue says he isn't, but it'd be interesting. And then, the question is, what's next? Do they just live however, or do they now bulldoze through the wall and or does she lead him into a trap? What is
then it just becomes another typical zombie movie in my mind. But
yeah, I don't want. I'm with you.
Definitely don't do a sequel. Please don't do a sequel. That'll actually bring it down worse. But again, with all your points and stuff, I didn't know all that stuff. But then it's like, how's the average moviegoer supposed to figure any of that out?
Well, you say that, yeah, I did, and Rachel did.
All of that? There's no way.
Not all of it. No, not all of it.
Right. She figured out stuff, and she's really good at that stuff. Yeah. And maybe I'm the average dumb moviegoer who puts Triple H on a Mount Rushmore, but but again, I had to look up the movie afterward just to figure it out. And
yeah, I feel
like if you have to do that, it's obviously maybe not as clear because, okay, the dumb moron like me can't figure it out. But it's good to talk. It's good to hear everyone's perspective of it, what they thought, what they think. But at the same time, I guess that's just what I thought. But I know Justin's big on the twist, so I just knew you were going to give a big score. And when me and Justinia, my girlfriend, were driving home from it, she's like, "Oh, let me guess, Justin's going to absolutely love this movie, and he's going to give it the greatest score ever." And I'm like, "He probably will."
Well, you mentioned that,
and she was like, "It was nothing until the end," and I'm like, "Yeah, in the end, to me, just doesn't make up for it." And then I'm like, I know exactly what Justin's going to say. I know he's going to love it. And he's going to think it's the greatest thing ever. And
I think it's just funny because Holly, right when it ended, she goes, "Oh, that's why she was the only one of them that could talk." And I looked at her, I'm like,
but that to me meant the opposite.
No, it meant she was a human. That was pretty clear. I just looked at her and I was like, "I'm so proud of you. You actually caught on to, a little
but
thing."
Then the other, but I was thinking the other way. I was thinking the other way in the other one.
No, everyone else was grunting and stuff, and yet this other girl was able to talk and stuff. Clearly that meant
barely though, not at all. But then her being the fake one, how is she able to talk?
Well, they said she went quiet for 5 years, and they just said it was PTSD or what is it? Post-traumatic, whatever.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. So, I mean, she's able to...
Who just voted yes on my poll? One of you is guilty because I have a poll up on Twitter that says, does Stable deserve to be on the Mount Rushmore? So far, 67% say this is stupid.
I didn't even see a poll. So it wasn't me.
67% say this is stupid. 25% say no, and one vote just said yes. So I'm pointing the finger at one for Sable. Yeah.
No, two.
I'm not saying Mount Rushmore. I feel like to not mention her over any woman, like, because without whoever Lanny is, he married the owner's daughter, fool.
No, look at his comment below that. Yeah, he commented to me. He said, okay, you're just a troll site. And then the other guy says, no, but her place in wrestling history probably is somewhat underrated. Though it was a brief period, for a time, she legit was the number 2 babyface in the Attitude Era behind Stone Cold. But no, clearly a no. And Matt, thanks for now slanting my poll even more.
That's it. You're off the podcast.
That's it. So, no, this is going to be a landslide just like the Stone Cold Triple H thing. I mean, it's not even close. So you can slant it all you want. I'm taking that vote away.
Delete.
Delete, yeah. Delete. All right. So I liked us. I liked our Mount Rushmores. Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
No.
Matt?
No, I'm good.
Nothing?
No. You guys bring it home.
Yeah, I feel like it was a good discussion. Again, more surprised that our lists were actually kind of close. I actually thought they were going to be far apart and we were going to really, really argue some points. Honorable mentions, again, I feel like they could go either way. But again, this is one of those things where there's no definitive answer. Again, I feel like, Stone Cold definitely got to be on there. Hogan got to be on there. Vince, one of the borderlines, depending how you word it. Triple H, The Rock, Andre the Giant. I mean, they're all right there. So it's just personal preference, I think. So
right. I do think Hogan, Stone Cold, and then from there. But I will quick add, Lanny says Andre, Stone Cold, Rock, and Bruno as his. So, Mr. Matty Moses, do you got a quick plug for us?
Oh, if you guys get a chance, feel free to head over to my YouTube channel or Instagram of Mr. Matty Moses. Other than that, thanks for tuning into the podcast. How about you, Noah?
I honestly, I got nothing here. I got nothing going on. I'm just here to give you the armchair reviews and enjoy a drink with my brother, my best friend, and maybe I can turn things around. But they're the ones that promote. They're the ones that read and write and get you guys out there, not me.
Alrighty, I'm going to give one last quick plug. You're listening to the 411 Foresight Wrestling Podcast on the 411 Podcast Network, Apple, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn, YouTube, and yes, iTunes. Give us all the good stuff. We're going to close it here with Moses and the Hermit from Act 1, Nova Scotia.
Moses!
Hit it!
Deep to the...
Peace of mind. Which one of those is easy to find? Neither of which one can buy. Both of them easy to hide. You can't deny that impact felt. Rule with love or rule with the belt. Walking around with the handheld. We all got a soul we could choose to sell. Keep it for you, keep it for love. Give it to evil or give it above. Throw it away, give it to none. Down goes the moon, up comes the sun. Signaling us a new day has begun. Starting it over, starting anew. Weight of the world seems heavy to you. Serenity now, what do you do? Black and white seems easy to choose, but that gray area is always abused. Is there a higher power or a deity? Cause it seems like it's always up to me. Gotta find the answers and find a peace. We'd all find our own with serenity. Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in. Living this life, bad in this pen. Rolling the dice, where does it end?
Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in. Living this life, bad in this pen. Rolling the dice, when does it end? Living this life, bad in this pen. Rolling this dice, when does it end? This is my ode to the road. This is the depth of my soul. Either you stretch or you fold, back down or you roll. How many miles, who knows? How many breaths to go? I know 40 that's gone, and I'm 40 years old. To the evil ones, reapers sitting on their shoulders. Need to stop doing this bogus. Need to sit down and refocus. Every day the dark approaches, always going unnoticed until it shows up, pops off, and leave you like bogus. Here we are now, clashing again, losing my family from losing friends, rolling this dice, think as again, open my eyes, praying it in. Here we are now, clashing again, losing my family from losing friends, rolling this dice, think as again, open my eyes. It was almost over, saw light over my shoulder. I don't know, guess I watch Jehovah or heat from supernovas. And I'm just here like these vultures always seem to control us. Got us fighting for colors when we supposed to be brothers. Here we are now at it again, whips these chains, slaves again. When do we learn, getting this pen, living this life, brothers again. Here we are now at it again, whips these chains, slaves again. When do we learn, getting this pen, living this life, brothers again. Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in, living this life, petting this tin, rolling this dice, when is it in? Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in, living this life, petting this tin, rolling this dice, when is it in? Only God knows exactly where my heart is at. Focus on the spiritual, ain't no need in looking back. This for hypochondriacs, wishing for their life back. Slide a knife close to your neck, bet they swallow that. I've been to hell and back, car wrecks and gunshots. Man, I'm from Resonant, God the only way I made it out. And that's on everything I love, see it plays out. Let me grab this Guinness stout, check out what I'm talking about. Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in, living this life, patting this pen, rolling the dice, when is it in? Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in, living this life, patting this pen, rolling the dice, when is it in? Still standing, kept moving, legs strong, boy. Autobots roll out, you can't stop the convoy. Reconstructed just to make the frame strong, boy. Niggas, Iron Man, titanium alloy. The either or is to build or destroy, to take life away or to give joy. I do both, mic checks for the friends and foes. That's how you keep the balance before you overload. Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in, living this life, patting this pen, rolling this dice, when is it in? Here we are now, where have I been? Traveling space, getting it in, living this life, patting this pen, rolling this dice, where does it end?
In my dreams I find serenity, one of my places away from enemies. I'm thinking about things without stressing, think about life, count all my blessings. Couple of kids, a beautiful wife, how to let negativity in my life. So I'm letting it go, I'm riding the wave, that peaceful feeling, can't give it away. You try and hold on when life gets hectic, leaving no answers, just a bunch of questions. You lean on me like I lean on you, we heard of the obstacles, what do you do? Set up a shop and drop the rest with haste, only so many moments, so many days. Make the best of now and live life full, cause once you do that, you'll own the bull.